get this going here. We're almost there. Die diddle die dee die, dee da die dee die. I see fuzziness. Fuzzy Wuzzy wasn't
baby.
fuzzy, was he?
It's Shekhinah.
Yeah. It feels divine. Let's see.
Hold on, I'm going to move into a good place, my friend. It's happening. I see a very nice picture of Cantor Ken, by the way.
Oh, do you see my little face now?
I don't see your little face now, but that's all right. I'm doing my thing. It's initiating video.
Oh, good, good.
So that should be better for you. Is that better?
Wow, it has a very mystical feel to it. I like it. It's sort of like you're there, but you're not there.
I'm here, baby. I'm all yours.
This is nice. All right, hold on one sec. There we go. All right. Hey, buddy. Welcome. I haven't spoken to you in a dog's age.
Dog's age. But here we are today, my friend.
Hey, thank you very much for agreeing to do this.
My pleasure. I hope everything is well with you and your family.
Definitely. I'm feeling the love. There's a lot of bracha. How about you? How about yours?
Thank God, amen, yasher koach, to everybody. We're doing great stuff. Everything's good. It's the oldest one is almost 18.
Wow.
Yep.
That's quite mind-boggling.
He's looking at colleges, and the little girl just had a bat mitzvah.
Oh yeah.
Yep. And the little guy is the caboose, making it happen.
What was his name again? What is his name?
The little guy?
Ezra? Is he?
Almost. Emet Shalem.
Oh my gosh.
Emet Shalem.
That's
MS.
right. Oh my God, I had so much fun with him when I was out there 5 years ago.
Right. He's a good kid.
Yeah, well, you have great kids.
Thank God, amen, yasher koach. So.
All right, so this particular interview, I think last we spoke, there was a, let's see, what's that sound? I'm hearing the heavenly waters.
Sorry?
I hear the heavenly waters. There you go.
There you go, yasher koach.
All right. So, this particular interview, let me tell you a little bit about it first before we begin.
Please do.
I'm interested in recording you and your thoughts on, it's probably going to be a range of things, but the purpose of the interview is more important. The purpose of the interview is to take people, cantors, rabbis, spiritual leaders, creatives, people who actually create a spark in the Jewish people today, and the hope of then uploading it to a website where the discoveries of others will create a river of ideas in which people might actually rediscover their own passion and connect it to a Jewish source. Basically, after 30 years of being a pulpit cantor, I'm noticing the what's the word? Contraction of the modern streams of Judaism, and so I'm looking to revive the Jewish soul, and picking up people like yourself, who actually are very passionate about what they do, and are very they're heart-opening people. So let me begin by just saying thank you for agreeing to do the interview, and yeah, maybe you could tell me a little bit about your journey. Why don't we start from the beginning? Tell me a little bit about your childhood.
Surely. So I grew up in the suburban area of Chicago, and my family, my extended family, remains very religious. folks.
Mm-hmm.
It was my father who rebelled a little bit about that and moved us out of the immediate orbit of our family into suburbs at the time that were becoming more settled and then hardly having a Jewish presence. So I grew up in a public school and was very conscious of difference and recognized that anytime we did anything Jewish with our family, we were for a minimum of 40 minutes in a car, meeting them in the closer area of Chicago. And, I grew up realizing that it was not so meaningful, Judaism, for me, because I didn't have any sustained positive experiences with it. In high school, too, it was very difficult to connect or be involved in a Jewish way. I tried USY in the conservative synagogue for a time or two, and it just didn't click with me. So it was something that I lay dormant with me more until I had an opportunity in college to go study, and I chose to study in Poland. It was at the time the fall of communism, and it was an opportunity to see what was going on in Poland, economically and otherwise. And so I did that, and it was at the same time that it was the time after the Gulf War, when Israel was bombarded with Scud missiles from Iraq. So it was a consciousness raising for me, and I had the opportunity to spend a semester in Poland, and then the summer in Israel, just to dip my toe in the waters of things. And I had the opportunity to volunteer on a kibbutz in the Golan Heights, and I had the opportunity to study a little bit in Jerusalem at one of these yeshivot. And I came back to college very excited about reclaiming an identity that I didn't really know. And I began to attend synagogue, and I began to think about what it would be like to really immerse myself in tradition. And the way that I was most comfortable to do so was through music, being a musician and appreciating that as well. I was in New Orleans at the time. And so it became an intense period of growth for me, so much so that at the end of that graduation, I took another year just to decide what I was going to do and continue my studies. And I ended up applying to cantorial school at the Jewish Theological Seminary and mystifyingly getting in and beginning to relocate my life and the life of my new family. I just got married to New York. So I engaged in the study in the Jewish Theological Seminary, had a particular chance to have a job, started a family. And it was, decent and good and really exciting because I was learning and doing and expressing my learning most immediately. And at the end of that, I had the opportunity to locate to Austin, Texas, to really help a community that was growing and finding itself. And I had the opportunity to do that. And I've been doing that since 1998 here. Over the time, I've had the opportunity to have a few moments of sabbatical. And it was in 2005 when I had a sabbatical. I was traveling on the Trans-Siberian Railway. I decided that I wanted to continue to discover and see what was out there. Not that being a cantor was wrong or bad. It was just something that I wanted to continue to unfold challenges. So it was possible to devote myself to a commuting study of rabbinics. I began at the Academy of Jewish Religion in Los Angeles, and I ended up graduating from there, having smicha from there, and at the same time from the Jewish Theological Seminary, rabbinical school. So that was an intense 3 years of study, 2 years in Los Angeles and a year in New York. And I've been serving the Austin community, and it's been really beautiful to be able to commute my interests and my loves and my commitments to a community that seems to really respond to them in a variety of important ways. So that's in a nutshell the deal.
Wow.
And over time, I got to meet some wonderful people like yourself in
Thank you.
initiatives like the Institute for Jewish Spirituality. And I'm a big believer in keeping moist opportunities to learn and deepen and grow, so I can not only learn myself, but to bring it to what I do for the community.
So let's see, where to start. When I met you, spending those days up in the hills of Simbi Valley,
Yep.
We had this wonderful uh, period of days on spiritual retreat, and I was there at that moment, if you recall, when you were in conversation with your community about your interest in becoming a rabbi.
Right.
And I remember, your desire to return, to receive smicha, to become a rav. Has it proved to be everything you had hoped it would be?
Well, the good news, Ken, is that I didn't really have many expectations for what that would be. I just knew that it would be something that would make what I was trying to do as a cantor easier to do. I don't know about you, but relating as a cantor, sometimes it's difficult to present yourself in a way that's different from how people view you based on your title and based on their expectations you want. And, so it was something that I viewed as only a boon to be able to not switch what I was doing, but really to deepen what I was doing based on what I was already doing. And having that title and having that experience made it easier to do so.
So, does that mean that you're functioning similarly as you were before? Are you doing this similar things, or?
I think so. I think as a, I still lead services. I still am passionate about music and liturgical music specifically. I've had the opportunity now to work with an assistant rabbi, and learning with her and having the opportunity to share with her certain responsibilities and privileges is really great. I guess the biggest thing that I've switched up is giving her the responsibility primarily for bar and bat mitzvah. But really, in terms of what I stand for and what I think are important, really hasn't changed very much.
So, in other words, the big difference is that you're seen by your community in a different light as a result of gaining the additional education.
Well, when I would speak to community groups about whatever they wanted to speak about, I would always obviously be introduced as cantor. And their first question, of course, was, what's a cantor? So if I had 45 minutes with the group, 30 minutes of it was explaining that, which is happy and great. It didn't really get to where they were going. It gave them something else, which was fantastic. To be in the position that I'm in gives me more ease in which to accomplish what I'm trying to do, which is motivate and spark, as you say, the neshama of the Jewish people.
All right, so let's talk about that. So tell me about tell me about your community, or tell me about the neshamot, the souls of the community that you're now sort of investing in. And talk to me about the work that you're doing there with your new title, that which wasn't before, but that which you've created since you've become a rabbi.
Well, I think that the ways to spark people are varied and numerous. I think many people are always looking for something. They don't know exactly what it is. And if you can present in an authentic way what you consider to be important and at the same time not hurt people, I think that that's something that people can feel very responsive to. I guess the operating way that I have in the community is to try to create a congregation that if I were a member, I'd want to be a member of my own congregation. And that sounds maybe strange somehow, but I think that you and I could both think about situations where colleagues um, are leading a congregation, but at the same time maybe not so invested in it on a personal level. And I think that merging personality and commitment and passion with professionalism, I think, are the building blocks, the cornerstones of having a successful relationship in community.
So, yeah, I totally agree with you. Investing in the people and investing in, the possibility that you might align them with some of the pieces that you're passionate about. What's come forward? What have you seen since you're investing in your congregation? What have you seen their calling to be? Meaning, in terms of what are they asking you for your community?
I think it's a great question. I think to bypass definitions and to transcend any limitations of what it means. One could, stop in the sand and say, "Oh, I'm a member of the congregation. It's enough," or I identify as a conservative Jew or as a Jew. But I think that investing yourself in the life of the congregation, in the life of the lives of the congregants and the community, vivifies those relationships with trust, and it allows people to get beyond the easier definitions, and hopefully it allows people to continue to search and want to be better in whatever path they have. And if one can aid that, as opposed to creating somebody in my own image, if one can aid somebody else in fulfilling a path and giving them tools to succeed and to feel that they have created something, whether it's something as learning to lead services or beginning a study practice or even a meditation practice, I think that those are really important parts of strengthening a community as a whole.
This is really wonderful because, to see it from the inside out is a real blessing. So, without mentioning specific names, talk to me about some of the journeys of the people that you're working with, and how they've evolved over time, and what you've been able to celebrate as a result of the time spent together.
It's really important to try to wean people off of the fatigue that they feel, or the sense that they're accomplishing something by, coming to services periodically, and that's fine. However, I think really important and wonderful ways of growth happen in a class that I teach every weekday, once a week on a weekday night, called Living Judaism, or you can call it Introduction to Judaism. But I purposely call it Living Judaism because it's not only an introduction course. It's a course that I would want to take myself, of learning and finding out what it means to be Jewish. It's not only, for example, Hanukkah is 8 nights, and here's the miracle of the oil. There's a real sense of conversation about what that means, and the appropriateness of celebrating that, and why one would want to recover that in one's own life or spiritual practice. So I've seen folks who are Jewish or who have chosen Judaism coming into a place not as a blank slate specifically, but as somebody who's eager to learn and to begin to acquire both knowledge intellectually, also spiritual knowledge and love of worship and love of community. And just have seen people who have sort of been floating or free begin to apply themselves with great personal benefit to certain aspects of congregational life, whether it's, again, committee work or social action or study or prayer. To have people fiercely devoted to certain longings of the soul or expressions of the soul is really quite gratifying. And at the same time, one realizes that it can be dangerous work. I mean, if you're helping someone, there's a propensity to feel that you're really their key giver, but you're really not. You're really a vessel through which they themselves can explore. So it's a real exercise in tzimtzum as well as generosity.
Reaching out and being that person for others, the conduit through which people can safely take that journey, uh, does take its toll on us as people who who live to nurture the spirit. So, how do you ground yourself
Um,
spiritually,
well,
emotionally?
I try to realize there's only one thing I can do at a time, and I try not to think that I can do everything at once. I also try to have ample time for myself. Again, I haven't lost the connection to music that I had when I began. So I think the expression of music and listening and performing are very important to me. Having time on my own is important to me, and structuring that. Putting within my own schedule opportunities for my own meditation, my own study, and being patient with myself and realizing that I'll make mistakes, and I make mistakes often, but just trying every moment to try to do a little piece of the great work that's always within us, which is to be present um, and to encourage others to 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 be present themselves and to not feel that I'm losing ground by skipping a day or missing something or being inappropriately blithely unaware. So I do my best, and I think that as that sounds, it really is the most sustaining piece of advice I can give myself, to stick with what I do and accept a couple of steps backwards if one can attain a step or two forward.
It's interesting because I I recall in the 30 years that I was working in a formal structure of a synagogue, uh, that you're always on for the community. You're always up in the public eye. And so, changing from the position of cantor to rabbi in title, is there a difference in perception in terms of what they expect from you, and uh, what you're required to be in that new role?
I think so. I mean, there's a speaking piece, which is, obviously important, at least to folks. But, in some ways, Ken, it's actually easier, because if you're, quote unquote, the rabbi, you seem to know what you're doing. Whereas a cantor, people don't really know what that is, or consider it to be a particular level of Jewish engagement. The other thing is really interaction with colleagues. And I think part of what a dilemma with the cantor is to try to define itself within the lens of the rabbinate as well. And I think that takes a tremendous amount of energy, both among the cantors and the rabbi, to try to figure out what that is. And with the constriction, as you said, of Jewish practice and Jewish identification, to have two different ways of interaction, which hopefully complement each other, but sometimes conflict with each other, can be very difficult for both a cantor and a rabbi to try to figure out who they are within a community, and that can have deleterious effects on the health of both cantors and rabbis, and it can be the intrigues can be very difficult and very painful. So I think that the thing that I've gained there is to be able to eliminate that level of trying to identify and be who I need to be or who I am.
Being now on the rabbinic end of things, what would you say to cantors that would aid them in terms of those, the mixing of the lines, as you put it, between rabbinical and cantorial responsibilities? What would you say would aid them also in being able to speak a common language that would move them forward together, to be, the sum of the parts being greater than the whole?
That's a good question, because I think there's different kinds of rabbis and there's different kinds of cantors, and some cantors want to be more invested than others in various things, and rabbis do, and some are more self-aware than others as well. What I would speak to a cantor about would be to beware being typecast or pigeonholed in a particular way of relating to the congregation, and to be able to speak one's mind and being able to continually learn and express one's Judaism. I don't really like to play the game that the cantor sings and the rabbi speaks. I think that if one has something to say or express, then they should be able to do it with, of course, a clear communication and supportive communication among professional staff.
So that's that. Yeah, I totally hear that. So, am I to understand that the staff that currently exists at your place is you as senior rabbi, and then another individual, a woman you referenced, as an associate rabbi?
That's correct. Yeah.
So, where is the title cantor now? Is that, do you incorporate that in your title, or?
Well, I don't call myself Rabbi Cantor or anything like that. I mean, people who knew me or know me know. So, is that something to think about, or to draw an absence to that the title cantor is not readily in my congregation? That's correct. However, I'm not adverse to hiring, to have the congregation have another cantor in the future if budget can do it. I just, in terms of my own skill sets, and where the congregation was at the time, that's really good.
It's interesting. I went on your website, and I think you have I'm trying to recall your title. Something about spiritual leader of religious affairs?
I don't know what that is. There was a transitional year when I wasn't yet a rabbi, when the congregation wanted to call me spiritual leader.
Or something like that. I mean, where it said...
I was the clergy at the time. So they couldn't call me rabbi, and they wanted to call me...
Oh, really?
So, I don't know, whatever that is.
No, I let's see, administrator of religious affairs, and your assist. Okay, so are you the rabbi of religious affairs?
No. So I think you're speaking about my assistant.
I see.
That's her title. She's both my assistant and sort of our quasi-ritual director as well.
I got it. I was thinking, wow. So, what?
I like titles are important, and to be taken with a grain of salt as well.
So you enjoy basically doing more of the blank than you do the cantorial duties. So what would those new pieces be that you are now doing that has come under your portfolio that you're celebrating?
Well, I mean, I'm responsible for a weekly Torah. I do study, and I do take into hand some of the classes I was assisting with earlier, and I do those as well. And also in the community, the larger community, it's a little easier to operate and navigate as well, because in the largely non-Jewish community, one knows at least where to locate what rabbi is, and so it's a little easier to be able to work with interfaith groups or particular certain groups to accomplish things in the community.
You've always struck me as a very heady person, in addition to being very passionate about your music and about your craft, cantorially. So, how would you say the balance has shifted, moving from cantor to rabbi in terms of head and heart, the proportion of which?
I think it's given my head an opportunity to be more public, which thus has increased my heart, because I don't feel like I'm living two different lives. I feel that the integration of what I am and who I am allows me to be much more real and heartfelt in all that I do, versus some of the things that I do publicly and some of the things I do on my own.
I never quite... That's great, by the way. I'm glad to hear that one informs the other and one supports the other. I never quite caught the end of the story. When I spoke to you last, back in 2008, I think it was, you were in the conversation with your community about going back to school. So I know that you were working with a rabbi then, were you not?
I was, from the years 2006 to 2009, I was working in the different schools in AJR, California, and from 2008-2009, JTS in New York. So there were certain rabbis within both schools, certain professors within both schools that I really appreciated very much.
Well, actually, what I'm speaking of is in your own community. Um,
Oh,
in other words, there you were a cantor. I remember when the congregation was supportive of your, going back to school to become a rabbi. And so, how did it actually unfold that, that you would ultimately become the senior rabbi? That's kind of curious.
so there were the first 2 years of school, 2006, 7, 8. I was working as I was commuting with an interim rabbi here, and so that was great. She was wonderful. 2008 to 2009, I was the only clergyman here, and that was very difficult because again I was commuting every week from Austin to New York. So it was at that time that the congregation decided to vote to call me spiritual leader with the recognition that it was an expectation with successful smicha, etc., that I would be rabbi. With many vision, thoughts, and ways to think about who we were and where we were going. When I graduated, I was voted as by congregational vote as the senior rabbi of the congregation. That was done with the partnership in conjunction with the Rabbinical Assembly and the United Synagogue of Conservative Judaism folks, and it was a process, and it worked out.
Yeah, well, that's interesting. The reason why it's important for me is because there are many cantors who are realizing that the cantorate is contracting for various reasons, and that there are inklings of actually creating opportunity for cantors to become sort of kol bows, gaining rabbinical smicha. So you actually represent a paradigm of cantor who has made that journey. And so there was a time, I would assume then, based on the history that you just shared, that the community in your first year of study knew they needed support, but in the second year knew that you could do it independently of another rabbinical colleague. And so was it at that point that they said to you, you're enough for us, and from this point on, we see you as, the #1 spiritual leader in the community?
Well, they realized that I had made a commitment to them, and as they had made a commitment to me, for which I'm always grateful. And we realized that we were trying to transition into a plan of leadership. I never do think that I could do everything by myself. Certainly not. Our community has continued to grow, and it is with incredible steady support of both Clay Kodesh and other professionals like office administrators and the director of congregational learning and the lay staff that we were able to do things together.
Right.
So it was in that third year that I think people began to say, well, what do we do? Do we hire a cantor? Do we hire a rabbi? What do we do? And that was those conversations.
Well, I'm so pleased it worked out exactly the way you wanted it to work out.
Mr. Ken, today is a good day. Thank God for today.
Yeah, well, I remember when it was a dream. And so, hearing you now, seeing where you are now, what is it like actually walking amidst the rabbinical folks? Here you are, you could wear your rabbi kippah, and now you go to, I would guess, rabbinical conventions.
I've been to a couple of them, yes.
And so tell me the what in your mind have been sort of the more large items that sort of stick out from your time at the Cantors Assembly conventions versus rabbinical conventions. Who are those rabbis?
Well, I see many folks who are very passionate about trying to figure out where American Judaism is going, where Judaism is going, and where they themselves fit. Much like the Cantors, I see a group of incredible professional men and women who are really looking to make a difference with their Torah. Also, as I see various aspects of anxiety, which causes one to clench up sometimes to see that that they would like to get more support. They would like to be in partnership but they don't always know how to do that in the best ways, based on the vagaries of each individual community. But I see tremendous talent, tremendous people who are really thirsting for not only being able to lead, but being able to feel satisfied in the work, the tremendous work that we all do. And I see more conversation with that, hopefully, in the future. And I think cantors and rabbis have much more in common than they would in a professional day give themselves credit for. And I would hope that our institutions and our workplaces, our synagogues, give us the opportunity to shed some of the anxiety that we have, to be able to have real conversations, to help and protect and uplift all the things that we consider to be important, thus empowering the communities that we're tasked to serve.
What is your definition of leadership? How do you understand yourself in terms of your rabbinic leadership? You talked to me about your job description before, but if you were looking at it from the top down, what would that mean to you?
I guess a simple definition would be to give all of myself to a particular moment in time, realizing that it wasn't about me at all.
In what ways would you give to that moment in time?
Everything that was needed, whether it was responding to a particular person, or responding to a particular request, or trying to figure out the best way to do something that served the best interest of the community versus a particular person. There's a whole variety of dances that take exertion and perspective. And I think that to be able to have a community in which to operate like that and to have people to share that with, I think is very, very important.
So tell me about some of the dances that you've exerted, your energy. What has been the most challenging and fulfilling in the time that you've been rabbi there?
That's a good question. I think there's a variety of things that would come to mind, but largely it would be to empower people to realize this is their community, and this is it's not about living their own relationship with God through someone else. It's about recognizing that it is in partnership and walking with another person that one can be enlivened to open up and take a chance and to feel more connected and more authentic in that relationship.
Talk to me about your relationship to God. When have you felt close to God?
I think most of the time, actually. I don't think I could do anything that I do without that connection. I felt that I was hollow or phoning it in. I think it would immediately come across as disingenuous.
So if one were to ask you your peak moments of connection to God, you would say?
When you're with a group of people, being able to present something with all of your heart, your soul, and your mind, whether it's a Friday night service, whether it's a particular class, whether it's being in a band and playing with somebody, but allowing somebody to feel their heart and holding it and being able to deepen it based on your own contributions, to me, is the most godly moment of all, or the godliest moments of all.
So as you reach out to others, you feel a deep connection to God.
God willing,
Yeah.
hopefully.
How do you?
Always, but you do your best.
What does it feel like? What does it feel like in that moment, physically?
I would think that largely it feels that you are possessing a space while not being there at all.
And that feels like
light. It feels like your voice sounds, Ken.
Okay.
Light and bubbly and just present and reassuring and comfortable.
I appreciate that. Thank you. Thank you. Well, that's a kind of a nice space to be in. I remember listening to you daven when I went out to visit, and I felt this incredible searching and yearning in the sound of your voice that was so meaningful for me, because I knew that you reminded me that we're all sort of reaching up, as it were. And has the rabbinical hat, has it tempered the cantorial passion? Or you said it's informed it even more. Like how, for example, in your davening, would it have changed?
Um, I'm aware of time, and I get time, yet it doesn't impact necessarily the presentation and the expression that I want to give. Whereas a cantor, I felt that I was walking a razor's edge of having to be relevant and present in a particular way. But if I didn't do, say, a repetition of Blumofe for 3 or 4 weeks, that people would be scratching their head and say, "Why is he here? Or what's he doing? What's the good or the value added of him?" I don't feel that way. So, I've made my peace with, balancing aspects of the service that I think belong to everyone versus rabbinic or cantorial. I mean, I really try to, if I'm leading Blumofe and I can do a repetition, that's great. If I can't, I recognize that the expression within what I am doing is very important.
I remember a joke Max Wahlberg shared with us. I don't know if you were privy to it. Israel Goldfarb, who wrote the traditional Shalom Aleichem Yadatem, he was both a rabbi and a cantor. In fact, he was initially a rabbi who wrote, many tunes. That was perhaps his most popular. And so, if he found that his voice was a little sore that week, he would speak more, and vice versa. If he had a new piece to share, he might talk less. Do you find yourself in that position as well?
Well, thankfully, no. But again, I've done and I lead as much as I lead now than I did as a cantor, which is only either Shacharit or Musa. So I've always had a high level of lay participation, and I believe very strongly in it. So I don't feel like without me, the service is not going to be. I do my best, and if I can't sing, then somebody else will sing it. But I don't look at it as a week-to-week proposition.
No, it's sort of like it was just a passing fancy to ask you that question.
No, I thought it was great. It's fantastic. It's great.
I was thinking that in the last 3 years, what could qualitatively and quantitatively the community say about the changes that have gone on under your, not under, perhaps alongside your leadership?
Well, they realize that I think that the dramas within the community are the community dramas versus the dramas of the rabbi and the cantor and that sort of thing, that the professional staff here really does have the best interests of the community at heart. And it's not about any tensions, or hopefully not about tensions between or among. And I think that the question of leadership has been settled, which in this particular community had been an open question for many years. And with that being behind this community, they can really concentrate on the issues that are really important to them and to all of us.
And do you think that it was your particular presence that enabled them to move past the drama of that and into something new? Meaning, apart from...
Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, apart from the fact that you actually became a rabbi and was it something that, we walk the talk, and in that way we are understood and valued? It's not necessarily what we say. So your presence then created a different environment within the synagogue?
Well, I do my best, and I'm not going to say that it's anything that I do. I show up for work, and I show up for what I do. I'm looking to be of service, and if that can be strung into a variety in a length of days, then people trust that. And then, as they trust it, as in any relationship, one can begin to build on it. So I don't think it's me. I think that we've had the good fortune, my community and I, to share the life that we have in this particular time.
When you spoke about the leadership being unsettled for a while, I was thinking that there must have been some healing that ultimately came about in order for people to move past it. Could you talk to that at all, or?
Well, hopefully. I think that there's, in any case, time is a big factor in healing, and depending on what kind of generosity of spirit a leader possesses. I think people take their cues from that. So I've really tried in all of my life to be open to all those who would want to be part of a community or to have a conversation, and to not um, specifically or intentionally hurt people with what I was saying or what I represent.
I was thinking about how so many of the cantors today, especially those that have been serving communities for so long and originally understood the possibility of sharing their great cantorial art, chazanut, with the community, are feeling sort of all dressed up with no place to go because there isn't a rabbi who understands its place in the service. Of course, like many cantors, the first fallback position is, oh, don't worry, we're doing plenty of congregational melodies to engage the congregation.
Right.
But there is this great art that touches people in a very significantly different way than congregational tunes, let's say by Debbie Friedman or Craig Taubman, or Kahlbach, for that. Anyone who has the singable tunes. There's different expressions. So now that you are the rabbi who does the cantorial work as well, tell me how your chazanut has either increased in terms of quantity or deepened in terms of positioning within the service, or remained the same. Where are you chazanically now that you're the rabbi?
Again, I don't try to apologize for what I do, and at the same time, I put into context any sort of chazanic gesture that I want to make in the service. Whereas again, I don't feel that it's going to be a make or break moment for me professionally. I don't think it's going to be, the rabbi's not going to have to tell me behind, out of privately that worked or didn't work. That I could be much more at ease regarding the relationship that I have with the beautiful art of chazanut.
Did you get to that place because of the trust that was developed with the balabatim, with the ritual committee? I mean, it doesn't sound like that you're fearful in who you are and what you're creating there. Many cantors I know are very fearful that they'll lose their livelihoods if they're not supportive of their Rav. What would you say to them in that position? Is that true, by the way? Have you heard from other rabbis who are just feeling so in conflict with the people, their cantors, that they can't find a compromise? And is that prevalent in the rabbinical world?
Well, I wouldn't know because I don't really know what happens. What people present in public settings, like conventions, is, I'm sure, very different than what really happens in the world. So I can't really comment on what individual situations are like. I do know, as I said, that there's a lot of anxiety, I think, among rabbis and cantors, and the more that we have the opportunity to speak to each other and learn from each other and really uphold each other and benefit, the better.
Yeah.
I would hope that that's the case. And I see promise in at least JTS of really looking to people.
It struck me that it would be wonderful to have sort of an umbrella, an all-inclusive of all the modern streams, for lack of a better word, convention or symposium for several days, where the tough issues between rabbis and cantors, which often get spoken about at water coolers at convention, actually get spoken about and shared, and I was thinking how wonderful it would be for people like yourself who are now sort of in the position of seeing it from both sides could weigh in.
Well, Mr. Ken, I think that would be a beautiful hope and motivation for you to really lend your talent to be able to do that for people, to help break through some of the difficulties that they feel and don't feel that they can articulate.
Yeah, we need to heal a little bit. What advice would you give cantors out there? Would you suggest that they too become Ravs?
Not necessarily. To really appreciate and recognize why they do what they do, and to have as honest conversations as possible with the people with whom they work and serve about what's important to them and what they need, and hopefully be in a situation where they can deliver that, or if not, to feel fearless to be able to do it, in ways that matter to them, either in established community or some other way.
Mm.
I think the more the cantors can speak to each other, and I know that the Cantors Assembly folks do this a lot, and I praise them, to really think about what it means to be a cantor in 21st century America, and how the landscape of synagogue is changing, how worship is changing, how the rabbinate is even changing. All of this tremendously impacts, the livelihood or the rewards that one would feel as a cantor. And I think that those things are very important and need to be discussed.
So what are you sensing out there? Where are we?
We're in a place where I think that many of us are drifting and are really looking for, as much of our communities are, looking for a pathway of meaning and looking for a pathway of confidence in order to present and give the best that we can give, and realize that, that there are differences. That I think it's very easy at a certain point to call yourself whatever you want to call yourself. But why, those of us who've had the opportunity to really study and apply ourselves to the rabbinic arts and the cantorial arts, why that's a priority, or why that should be a priority for a community versus just calling yourself a stam, rabbi, or cantor, and just leading because that's what one's supposed to do. I think it's great hard work ahead, and I think it's very, very important and needing work that needs to be done. So I'm not upset, I'm not fearful, I'm actually quite optimistic about what the future can hold.
If one were to ask you the paradigm that you're now holding within your own community and its success, based on the fact that, as you said, so many of us are floating, what would you say? I'd like to say that the top 3 or 4 things that characterize your community and the wonderful way in which it's growing.
Well, again, I don't know if this would work in other communities too, and I feel incredibly blessed to be able to be with people with whom I serve and work all the time to be able to do this. I would say that, to be yourself, to be able to trust, to be passionate and present in the moments that we're in, and to give yourself recognition that you make mistakes, and we try our best in every moment, and to not put ourselves first, but really to try to endeavor to put our communities first at all times.
It's so interesting because, in my mind, that speaks to a different model that is currently out there. And I'm so pleased. I really am pleased. I mean, I would definitely go to the Rooster and celebrate with a thick shake. I mean, I'm serious. Because, I mean, what I hear is, is a sense of awareness that you're trying to create in relationship between people in the community, between people and themselves, people and others, people and God. And so that when we walk together under this one roof, there's this possibility of sort of championing those values, which it sounds to me like, you're celebrating human frailty. You're you're accepting who we are as people, and just assuming that we can be there for each other, that we will be there for each other, and that that is enough. If we just put our best foot forward, and we have that type of openness and trust, the community can reach any goal. And most of the time, when people talk to to clergy, dare I say rabbis or cantors, the default is, let me tell you about this new program we're doing. Let me tell you about this great speaker. Have I showed you my new services on Friday night and the band that's? In other words, it's about it's it's more about the creations and the programming rather than this awareness that a community might be in, which I think you're creating, and that is very novel.
Well, I'm trying, my friend. Every day.
And tell me, well, that I know. I mean, I remember how passionate you were just as a cantor, and now with you having more of a stake and a possibility of creating positive change, I'm sure there are no holes barred. This is your moment. These are your people, which you've said several times are so you're so grateful to be with, and so. I'm so excited for you, and that I could feel the possibility that comes out of the conversation, and I'm wondering what's your now this is a very corporate sounding thing, but I'm saying it well, let's put it this way. I'll say it in an uncorporate way. What's your dream? Or in corporate terms, what's your 5-year plan? But more of a, what is your dream for this community?
More people to recognize the indispensability of finding out one's truth and one's path. And if Judaism can be a mechanism or a tool for people, whether they're Jewish or not, that's a dream for me, to be able to represent for people a safe place to pursue life's questions, life's anxieties, and to feel that you're not only learning something in a head sort of way, not only applying your heart to something, but to really enjoying yourself and laughing in the process.
Well, that definitely speaks to me of who you are, because that's who I know and loved, and hopefully the love will continue for many years.
Ken Yirtzon.
Ken Yirbu. Yeah, this is good stuff. Wow, so that's quite unusual, Neil. Very unusual, man. I really like the sound of that.
Good, baby. Come visit.
Yeah, that would be nice. Are you coming out to LA anytime soon?
Not that I have planned, but I might. You never know.
Yes.
I might show up.
Our holy sister has passed this way. Rebecca Fletcher has come by. In fact, I think I'll be speaking to her on Monday.
Oh, beautiful, man.
Yeah. Well, listen, thank you very much for this, and I appreciate your honesty and your candor. And you look happy, man. I'm so happy that you're happy.
Thank you, sir.
All right.
I appreciate that.
So, are you going to Palm Springs for the park convention?
I am not going to Palm Springs this time.
All right. Well, I hope. When will I see you? What's the next convention you're going to?
God knows, man. I have no idea.
All right. My love to you and your family, and don't be a stranger. Let's pick this up off the record, as it were.
Success to you and blessings.
Thank you. My love to you, man. Be well.
Good Shabbos.
Shabbos to you. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.